Hi, everyone. Welcome back to another fantastic episode on the Unleashing Potentials podcast. My name is Bernadette Desir, and I'm your host. And joining me today is Baba Sam Shelley. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on. It's a pleasure to speak with you today.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm so happy to have you on. Where about are you tuning in from?
Yeah, I'm in New York City.
Oh, what's the weather like there?
Oh, it's always beautiful regardless of what it's doing outside. We're live. We get to experience this moment, so it's
Yeah,
perfect.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, Sam, can you tell us more about you and the work that you do?
Yeah, so about me was that I was a very sick, disabled man for 38 years. I had multiple sclerosis, I had bipolar, psoriasis, arthritis, migraines. I had all these health issues for 38 years, and even my 20s I was suicidal. It was just a really
Mhm,
difficult and painful life. Then one day I simply realized that I discovered meditation, and through meditation, I discovered I had thoughts, but I wasn't my thoughts. So when I was suicidal in my 20s, I always took my thoughts as true, that life was too difficult, too painful.
mhm,
But no one was telling me, not even my psychiatrist is telling me, why are you taking your thoughts as the truth?
mhm,
No one will get you to question your thoughts. They typically get you to reframe your thoughts or something along those lines, but it's
mhm,
still a thought chasing a thought. So
mhm,
what I realized, I discovered meditation because I was really stressed out, overwhelmed with life, and I read that meditation can bring inner peace. I'm like, I need peace. I'm so stressed, so overwhelmed, everything's going wrong. I didn't have any concept of healing myself. It was never my objective to heal. But so through meditation, I realized I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. This was a profound realization. It's like, okay, if I'm not my thoughts, who am I?
mhm,
So I sat with that question, who am I? Then one day I just heard a voice say, perfect spirit. I'm like, that's it. My spirit is perfect. The spirit of Bernadette is perfect.
mhm,
Everybody that's listening, their spirit is perfect. But we get attached to this body, this mind as us. And we had all these changing bodies throughout life. Like your childhood body is not the body that you have today. So
No.
we have all these changing bodies.
Mhm,
So where do we go? The one who sees through the eyes never changes.
mhm,
And that is our perfect spirit. And I just like to say it's our vibrant soul. So when we're trying to help people now is to remember who they really are, that they are a vibrant soul, but we get attached to all these stories. So if you want to unleash your maximum potential, you have to get rid of all the negative mind chatter that is gumming up the works because your vibrant soul knows exactly what you need and is trying to deliver it. And the
mhm.
mind chatter is blocking that abundance from coming to you and perhaps those things from leaving you that are not serving you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing. Let me say I can relate so much to the struggles you mentioned you've been through, and so can many other people. And it's so hard at times for us to, reprogram what we grew up with, our beliefs and culture and all of it. Tell me, how did you heal yourself to be the man that you are today? What was the
Well,
work that you did?
I was never focused on healing myself. That's the big key. Because if you told my bipolar OCD brain that there's a specific rule to follow, I've been so focused on the rules. Am I sitting properly? Am I holding my hands properly? Am I breathing properly? I would have had all these structures around meditation, which would have kept me in my mind. I simply realized I have thoughts, but I'm not my thoughts. Then when I heard that voice say perfect spirit, I'm like, that's it. That's who I am. Then I simply knew all is well, and all sense of fear just dropped away. I just knew my health challenges were over at that point.
Mhm.
And within about a year, they were indeed over. It took the body some time to catch up to that realization because it was so damaged. But it wasn't for me actively doing anything. It was just like this intuitive voice or intuition or hunches were saying, go do this, go do this.
Mhm.
Like I had the hunch to go do yoga. My mind was protesting against this, saying you're not flexible, you can't do this, and all these stories. I ignored the mind, signed up for yoga, did yoga, and 6 months later, no came. Then it's just following this deeper knowing within all of us that we are spirit, that we are soul. The answer is within us. So it was always an inward journey for me. And that's where I'm trying to remind individuals that you know that you know. You're the only one that lives in your body. Others are just simply guessing what is best for you.
Mhm.
So I don't prescribe formulas, routines to individuals. I just help them remember who they are. And that starts by being aware of this moment that we're sitting, that we're listening. Usually we're in the mental story and not really here. We're into the day's problems, what happened last week, what's going to happen tomorrow. We're in all these stories. So we need to break away from the stories and just simply be here, aware of this moment.
Mhm.
And Eckhart Tolle talks about this a lot, the power of now.
Yeah.
Most people are not in the now, they're in the story. So I want them to find that practice that brings them into this moment. So when my mind was chatting, so mind thinking, so instead of chasing thoughts with more thoughts, so when the mind would start chatting, I'd be like, where are my feet? Where are my hands? And I just bring myself back into the awareness of this moment. And that's why my practice is very simple. Find the way that works for you. And your mind will naturally grow quiet when it's in this moment because the mind isn't here. So when you're bringing yourself here, you're putting a gap into the thought stream. The more gaps in the thought stream, the more inner peace, the more you align to who you really are, the vibrant soul.
Mhm.
And once you
Yeah.
know you as self as soul, then everything falls into balance. There's a harmony that happens. And
Mhm.
I've witnessed many miracles when the mind gets out of the way, because miracles are always coming to us, but the mind is blocking,
Yeah.
it's interfering. So we just need to relax and just be here. That's really the big essence of it all, is just enjoy life.
Mhm.
Enjoy this beautiful moment, regardless of external conditions like the weather outside. It doesn't matter, right? We're alive, we're having this experience, and we're in a place of joy, of happiness. Life flows easier because we're not dependent on external circumstances for our happiness.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for sharing. Um, I'd like to dissect a little bit, if not more than a bit, of what you shared regarding the mind. I'm diagnosed with mental health diagnosis, and I know the power of the mind. And at times, especially in the early phases of diagnosis, it
Hmm.
is so hard. I have fought and wrestled with my ego, with my mind, probably all my life, but more so during mental health challenges in the early phases. In your opinion, how can someone who is, in that early phase or in between their healing journey, how can they distinguish what is real, what is not real when it comes to what the spirit is trying to express and say to them?
Right, because that's a really good point. Because I was seeing a psychiatrist for roughly 20 years for the bipolar. And
Mhm.
I remember the first 5 years being very challenging, trying to get the right medicine combination, right, to get
Mhm.
the body back into balance. But
Mhm.
once again, they were never addressing thoughts. They were never saying why you're taking your thoughts as true.
Mhm.
Do you believe that story as true? Or they'll try to reframe the story, which is again chasing more thoughts.
Mhm.
And what I can see now is that they taught you how to be here in this moment. And when you're here, the mind can't pull you all over the place because the mind will
Mhm.
drag you all over the place.
Yeah.
So it's just a matter of just finding that practice that works for you, that gets you into this moment. Maybe it's listening to music, maybe it's drawing, maybe it's art. There's 1,001 things that we could be doing that get us here into this moment. It could be a simple thing of when you're washing the dishes, feeling the water. Most people
Mhm.
washing the dishes are unaware of the water temperature. They're just not having that awareness. They're on autopilot while they're thinking about the next things they have to do, or the kids yelling in the back, or whatever it is, and they're not here in this moment. They're focused and scattered elsewhere.
Mhm.
So for me, it was just simply, learning to be here, to find that thing that gets you rooted into this moment. And when I tell people that are battling, fighting, let go of the battle and fight. That's just the mind saying this moment needs to be different. And we'd say, no, this is this moment. It's not preferred. Let me focus on how I want life really to be. We focus on life as it is, and we're usually protesting against life. We're fighting against this moment, and that actually keeps it in place. Because where
Mhm.
you focus on, you strengthen. So if you focus on your problems, they get bigger and bigger. But if you just
Mhm.
focus, this is what I would prefer to see, and you kept holding that vision that this is what I prefer, then
Mhm.
life will try to direct you in that direction. You'll have a hunch, an inkling that I need to go do this. But initially, it is hard to tell what is between the mental voice and our true voice.
Mhm.
Your mental voice will say, drink water because of all these benefits, and will start giving you reasons and benefits, where the deeper voice won't give you any reasons or benefits. Just simply do this, do
Mhm.
that,
Mhm.
with no explanation, because
Mhm.
the spirit doesn't need to give you an explanation because it knows it's the right way. And the mind is convincing you that is the
Wow.
right way.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing it. It sounded like you were expressing, to be grounded. I've been told that quite a bit to find things that ground me. You give a nice example, doing things. For me, when I'm physically washing dishes or putting my feet on the ground, anything physical, it puts me here. But when
Hmm.
I'm watching, let's say a movie or a show, I'm not here. I'm in the show.
Right. And most
Yeah,
people are, because we
yeah.
get we get it we get it we're trained to do that. We get caught up in the story that's on the screen, that we're not aware that we're just looking at a screen. It has no opinions, it's just a screen. And yet when I hear grounded, it's simply just being here in this moment. That's all it is, finding those things that get you here in this moment. Because we can
Mhm.
have all sorts of routines and rituals to get grounded, but
Mhm.
we need to simplify, because there's all these spiritual programs out there that keep the mind busy. Am I grounding properly? Am I
Mhm.
doing all these steps to ground myself? It's
Mhm.
like, no, are you doing that thing that's keeping you aware of this moment?
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. Let's touch on spirituality, Western or Eastern medicine. I think from what I've seen so far, um, medical professionals from many different branches, they are trying to bring all of those together. For example, meditation and going out in nature. They're trying to blend all those together. Do you think people are taking those seriously or actually putting in the work to get the result out of those?
Well, that's part of the problem with the culture, that we want instant results. Like from the invention of the microwave, we expect these instant results. And it can happen. There's no rules saying it cannot happen that way, but most people, it's not that way. But for
Mhm.
me, I've discovered that I didn't, my wasn't my thoughts within a week. And a few weeks later, I heard that voice. Then it was basically over. I knew who I was at that point.
Mhm.
So it can be a very quick process. It can be a little bit long of a process. So like you remember who you are, then you get lost in the drama of the day, the story, but then eventually you'll come back to this moment. And the whole point is to let go of any judgment, any criticism,
Mhm.
because that's just more mental activity. It's like, oh, I got lost in the story. That's
Mhm.
okay. Let's just come back to this moment, restart. We always hit
Mhm.
refresh, restart. Let's start again. There's no one judging you and say, "Oh, you did that wrong." Just
Mhm.
becoming self-aware and say, "Let go of all judgment, all criticism," and that's really what provided the fuel for my autoimmune diseases, with being so judgmental and so critical of myself. So the body starts attacking itself. So when you
Mhm.
start getting this battle mode, this fight mode, the body starts attacking itself. So autoimmune diseases is the body attacking itself. And I work with individuals with autoimmune diseases. I'll find that there's an element of self-criticism or judgment they're not even aware of. It could be the simple fact that every time they pass by a mirror, they see their hair and it freaks them out. My hair is not right. And that little subtle thing of constantly critiquing their hair is causing stress within the body, releasing stress hormones, and it's
Yeah.
starting to pollute the inner environment. So even the simplest judgment and criticism is adding stuff into your environment that is not useful. So you
Mhm.
see yourself in the mirror, you just smile, you let go of all judgment, all criticism, saying, doesn't matter, I'm feeling good. That's
Yeah.
all that matters.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. So Sam, tell us about your spiritual journey so I know which direction to go with questions based on
Well,
what you share.
yeah, because the thing is, I never had a spiritual teacher. I
Mhm.
simply one day, because I was, dealing with multiple sclerosis, I lost the ability to walk. So I was a couch potato. I used to watch a lot of TV, there's lots of suffering. So my world was on the TV, watching TV, that's what I did. And so I used to watch anything and everything on TV. It was
Mhm.
just whatever's on, I watched. So I used to watch ghost hunting shows, but
Ooh.
I didn't know if it was real or fake because it's
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
So I saw a tweet from a ghost hunter about an event not too far from where I was living at that time. It's like, oh, I can go to that. I can put on my
Mhm.
cooling vest. I can prepare myself to go on this ghost hunt. So
Mhm.
I went to this ghost hunt in Philadelphia at Fort Mifflin, a very famous location for ghost hunts. But I figured with MS and wearing a cooling vest because you get very heat sensitive at multiple sclerosis. So I figured
Mhm.
I had about an hour, hour and a half at this event. So I did my research. It's like, all right, this reportedly is the most active location. So I'm going to follow the group that is going to this location first, because that might be my only experience tonight out of the 4 or 5 hours that were there. So
Mhm.
I went into the area called the Casemates. This was the area
Mhm.
where they housed the Civil War prisoners during that time.
Mhm.
So I went to the Casemates. At first, it was pretty boring. Nothing was happening. They were trying to do what's called they're trying to get responses to questions on a recorder. They were asking
Mhm.
questions, trying to get a response on a recorder, but it's right near the Philadelphia airport, so it was very noisy. And this is for like 15 minutes, nothing was really happening. So it
Yeah.
was like that was kind of boring. Then somebody put out a flashlight, and somebody said, "Turn this flashlight on." It went on. Turn this flashlight off. It went off. So they're going
Wow.
back and forth with this on off. And like, well, that's interesting, but it's their flashlight. So I put
Mhm.
out my flashlight and it was doing the same things.
Mhm.
Then a few minutes later, I felt somebody sit next to me on a bench that I could not see. So I
Oh.
felt some, I, so I felt this person sitting next to me I couldn't see. Then I just felt this overwhelming sense of dread come over me.
Mhm.
It was like, wow. So that's the experiences I had there. So after that, I was like, well, that's really interesting. So ghosts are real. What is this ghost thing? What are these spirits? What is this? So I just start to read some books, but very slowly because I was dealing with multiple sclerosis. I
Mhm.
could only read a few pages before I would get a migraine. So it
Mhm.
took me a long time. And so I figured, well, who talks to spirits? Mediums. So I started to read books from mediums,
Yeah.
and they talked about this meditation and like 2 pages. It was very simple, how they raise their vibration through meditation. But they talked about the benefits of meditation. And one of the benefits was inner peace. I'm like, aha, that's what I need. I need inner peace. I'm so
Mhm.
stressed, so overwhelmed with life. So I began a simple meditation practice that night. There was literally no rules on meditation. It was like sit comfortably and relax. That was it. So
Yeah.
that's what I did. I began that 5 minutes. I began that night with 5 minutes a day. I just sat there, but I thought meditation means you stop thinking. So the
Mhm.
mind would start thinking. I'd be like, stop thinking. Mind thinking, stop thinking. So this went on for about a week. Then I realized, wait a second, that is a thought chasing a thought. So I'm aware of my thoughts, so I'm not my thoughts.
Mhm.
So if I'm not my thoughts, who am I?
Mm.
So that's
Wow.
how it began for me, was just that simple.
Mhm.
But the thing is, I was always curious. So I just didn't say, oh, I want to ghost hunt and I had these fun experiences and I dropped it. No, it's like, okay, this is real. What did I experience?
Yeah.
And I think it's what a lot of us are getting, that kind of attention to get us to pay attention, like, hey, notice what's going on around you.
Mhm.
But we don't dive in closer to like, why did I have this experience? What's going on here? They just saw it as entertainment, a distraction for the moment. But we have to realize that nothing happens by mistake. Like we're giving me all these kind of confirmations while I was there with the flashlight, with the person sitting next to me, like
Mhm,
all this confirmation that there's something beyond what you can see within your eyes. There's another realm that we
mhm,
don't see with our eyes. So it
mhm,
got me into this quantum shift, if you will. I really see it like a quantum shift to see reality in a different way. And I'm seeing that with a lot of people that really do shift, have an experience they cannot explain, and they were curious to dive in more and say, okay, what did I experience?
mhm, mhm. Wow, you're speaking my language. Wow, wow, wow. I love it. Um, I also have sclerosis. It's not really, really bad at this time, but the pain is real. I have a back brace that I wear when I need to.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'm proud of you for healing and overcoming that. It's very debilitating for sure.
Hmm.
And yeah. Oh, ghost hunting. I was born open as a child and with voodoo and Haiti, which is where I'm from, I have seen and heard a lot and I continue to. I used to get a really, really bad sleep paralysis,
Mm.
which stopped because I started having a spiritual awakening a few years ago. That stopped. And since then, it's been all positive, and I've connected to the other side as well. Are you a medium, or how do you connect to the other side? Tell us more.
Yeah, there's really no other side per se. We are a spirit. We're
Yeah.
always existing in spirit. The body comes and goes. So eventually our bodies will drop away, but our spirit will remain. We may come into a body, we may not. We might choose to go to a different planet, into another form. There's no
Mhm,
rules on the other side that you have to do this routine. So I'm
mhm,
just really seeing that it's just spirits. They're all spirits always around us. We're never alone. That we're just thinking we're alone, but we're actually not.
mhm,
So that's what I really see is that we're all spirits. We all have these abilities if we get the mind out of the way. So
mhm,
now, I have the mediumship abilities, the psychic ability. So I share them in the Vibrant Soul Society. But I also have these other abilities with healing, but I don't focus on it. Like I worked with a Peruvian shaman, was felt called to work with him, and he taught me how to bring the doctors from the spiritual realms. So now I
mhm,
call them forward when I'm work with individuals that need help with the back or whatever it may be. And I have a funny story with that. This person called me. She's like, "Well, I need to set up a time for you. The doctor scheduled me for a knee surgery. I don't want to get knee surgery." So I worked with her and I'm like, and I bring in these doctors, but this one doctor specifically gave me his name. I'm like,
mhm.
oh, this must be important. So I asked her, do you know this doctor? And she's like, yes, that was my childhood doctor.
Oh
And
wow.
she's like in her 60s, 70s now. So this was her childhood doctor that came through. And he was like, once a patient, always a patient. So he
Wow.
came through. And to this day, she still hasn't had knee surgery.
Wow. That's miracle. That's incredible.
And that's
Um,
quite common. I see that quite common where it's one session and done. That's it. Sometimes I give them the recordings and say, well, sometimes just keep listening to it. It's still working, it's still going through.
mhm,
But that's the way it is that once we release the mind, connect to who we are,
mhm,
because everything is spirit, everyone can call them forward. Hey, I need some help with this, and
mhm.
allow them to help.
Yeah, yeah, spirits. Okay, I've heard good and bad spirits. I actually don't know what to believe most of the time because I'm a student for life. I'm still learning. Can you tell us what is good spirit, bad spirit, or do spirit get stuck here? I don't know how it all works. Maybe you can shed some light into that
Yeah,
for us.
so in my own personal experience, that we have to realize that spirit is pure light itself. They
Mm,
may have some human attributes just still attached to them, so they may be a little bit of a lower vibration, but they're
mhm,
not really what I call an evil spirit. I've never run across a bad spirit. At first, I thought this was odd, that there's no bad spirits. I haven't encountered that. But I don't know if you're familiar with Dolores Cannon.
Yeah.
And I heard her speak one time, and she says, I've been working in the spiritual realm for 40 years. I never encountered a bad spirit. It's
Mm-hmm.
never been my experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I can say that same thing. I've never encountered what I would call a bad spirit. Maybe they're a little bit lower vibration, but they're not necessarily bad or evil because spirit is pure light connected to all that is. So
Mm-hmm.
maybe they still have some spiritual attributes, if you will, that they're hanging on to, but their spirit themselves is not bad or evil. And
Mm-hmm.
maybe we just need to clear those attachments
Mm-hmm.
that maybe they had a traumatic experience or something along those lines,
Mm-hmm.
and they're in the way stuck here in this realm. They haven't really crossed over. They still attribute to these human experiences. And it was coming to me as a really funny story about if we're talking about ghosts and spirits. Okay, so this was at a girlfriend's house.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was there, her dogs would never go into the basement. Her dogs would just simply refuse. And these were wild, big dogs that would run around all over the place.
Yeah.
But they would get to the top of the stairs and they would not go down into the basement whatsoever. They just were not there. And like, well, that's really curious. What's going on here?
Mm-hmm.
So I walk down. I see, oh, there's a doctor here in the corner. So that was interesting because it was right down the street from Pennhurst in Pennsylvania. Pennhurst is a very famous location in Pennsylvania for all the wrong reasons. It was used to they used to house children there that had mental deficiencies, and it was really abusive type home it was, and it was all these buildings, really horrible condition for all these children's. And he was a doctor there, and he always felt guilty that he could never do more because I eventually got this doctor to move on. But I actually really had to have a conversation with him that it wasn't your fault, it wasn't your problem, that you were trying to highlight these problems, but you were just a worker. So I actually had a dialogue for 5, 10 minutes with this past doctor why he was hiding in the basement. So I talked to him for 10 minutes, then he moved on. Then
Mm-hmm.
after he moved on, I know he moved on because the dogs just came right down. It's like, oh, new area to explore. What's going on here?
Oh,
But
wow.
yeah, they came through. So it was very interesting that this spirit was stuck because he felt guilty for the mistreatment of children.
Mm, mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing. Can you talk more about doctors? I know what kind of doctors you're talking about, spiritual surgeon and doctors. Um, how do they help us over here to continue to heal?
Well, because they've been trained in the human body. They
Oh,
know how to repair the human body. So they don't
oh,
have a body anymore, but they had all the training on the body so they can do whatever is needed. Oh, this ligament's torn, this is that, and they know how to repair it. Because a
yeah.
lot of my clients will report like being, because I warned them before a session, don't be alarmed if you feel yourself being touched, being tugged. It's nothing to be alarmed about, but it will happen. I mean, you might hear people walking around you. It's nothing to concern about. You're safe, you're protected, nothing's coming to harm you. So I
Mhm.
remind them that they are going to have these experiences that they can't explain or heat. There's going to be something, but just it's going to be okay.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? I have those all the time. Specifically when I was a child, I would hear people walking. Everybody's sleeping. I spent some time in an orphanage. All the kids, we would sleep in piles and next to each other because we were so open to it. People walking, talking, kids playing, dog barking, and
Hmm.
everybody's sleeping. Some of the worst experiences I felt, I don't know what they are. Yes, sleep paralysis. I felt that something heavy was sitting on my body. Like I couldn't move at all. Would that just be sleep paralysis or something else?
Yeah, I think it's just sleep paralysis. Probably just sleep paralysis. It's unlikely you actually had an entity sitting on you, but there are some jokesters in my experience. There's some practical jokers out there that do those kind of things, but I don't think there's anything malevolent.
Mhm.
However, we have to realize that our belief system is also creating that reality.
Mm,
So it could be antagonizing to spirits like, oh, because you got to realize our thoughts are out into the universe. They're not just stuck in our brain. If you're thinking like, oh, there's an evil entity coming to attack me, that goes out to the universe. And there's a jokester spirit's like, oh, let's give her this experience.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, that makes sense. And also with, with mental health and spirituality, in your opinion, do you think that entities are attached to people with mental health diagnosis that are hearing different voices?
No, I really don't think that is the case. I really don't haven't experienced attachments in my experience or entities. What I have seen is people being attached to memories and making those cords to people, attaching to their energy, but not physically an attachment on them. It might be because they have an energetic connection to that person, especially through past trauma and past hurts. You
Mm-hmm.
might have an energetic tie to that person that needs to be severed, that needs to be cut, that may give the appearance of an attachment, but you just have
Hmm.
to simply dissolve and remove that cord. And it's like we're
Hmm.
carrying these old ghosts, this baggage around. We just need to drop it and say, they don't need to be in my memory anymore. I don't need to think about them anymore. But if we
Yeah.
keep thinking about them, the past hurts, the past experiences, we keep
Hmm.
them alive. And
Hmm.
we need to keep moving forward and just being here in this moment once again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Tell us some amazing, exciting experiences you've had with what we call the other side, which is already here. What are some experiences you've had?
Well, the doctor is pretty interesting. The two doctors I share with the knee and the doctor stuck in the basement. That's another interesting experience. Where place where I was doing yoga. Well, because I was going driving when I was working, I was driving by, on my way to work, but traffic was all backed up and I didn't know why. I later found out that somebody died in that highway, which turned out to be down the street from my yoga studio. So
Hmm.
that night, I just dropped into my meditative state before we started, and I just said, and I just tried to connect with that, with the scene, and just trying to see what was going on. So I was sitting in the yoga studio, dropped into my meditative state, trying to connect to the scene of the accident, trying to see what was going on. And when I astrally traveled there, I guess you could say that when I just mentally traveled there, I just saw this person on the side of the road pointing at the speed limit sign.
Hmm.
So, but I saw like, oh, she is stuck. She didn't realize that she died in this accident because also was inquiring, what happened, and then she was pointing to the speed limit sign. So I helped move her on that. Yes, you did pass. Your body's no longer here. And once again, I had that conversation with her
Hmm.
you know, that it's okay. You can, and she's a little hesitant to go to the other side, like what's on the other side. It's like there's nothing to be afraid of. Your
Hmm.
parents are waiting for you, your past loved ones are waiting to greet you. Just let go, you're going to be okay. So that's the big thing is that we just have to let it all go and say it's going to be okay. But that's some of my experiences with that, but it's always something interesting. Like there's definitely some jokesters and pranksters around here as well in my space, that hide things once in a while.
Yeah.
Something will literally go missing once in a while, like, all right, where is it?
Yeah, yeah. My family on the other side, they play with the lights all the time.
Mm.
It was crazy when my spiritual awakening first started. All the lights, it's like Christmas lights turning on and off, on and off. I'm like, okay, that's it. Stop it. And it's been less, but here and there, if I'm having a bad day, I will notice the light, going on and off. Like, okay, what do you want? Even I can't hear them, but I connect with them more in dreams, which
Uh-huh.
is fabulous. Um, can you tell us more about angels and guides? What are their roles and why do we need them?
Yeah, once again, the angels, the guides, they're just helpers.
Mm.
Because somebody was saying, I really want to connect to angels one day, and it was like, well, you were the angel that you seek, that we are that spiritual entity that we are seeking. That we want all this separation of angels, guides,
Mhm.
and it's like you're connected with them all the time.
Mhm.
So there is no separation here. You're pretty much one with them. So there's all the same energy. So they're just helpers, like doctors in the spiritual realms. They're just helpers. And
Mhm.
angels and guides will come through and give you insights, hunches, intuition that this is what you need to do. Once again, it'll say, do this, do that, and they won't give you explanation. If there's an explanation or a reason, that's always mental. What's coming on the spiritual side is factual. Do this, do that, and no, we're not giving you reasons why. Just do it.
And if we don't do it, they somehow make sure we do it. I don't know how, but they do it.
Well, what happens is that the universe is always trying to get our attention, but we're not usually noticing the signs, the symbols around us. Like in my
Mhm.
case, my health was gradually getting worse and worse and worse until I said, wait a second, because I went from the bipolar to the psoriasis, to the migraines, to the arthritis. Like my health was in a decline, and the MS was the final straw, if you will. And then
Mhm.
7 years of living with MS, I went on that ghost hunt, and now there's no more MS. And last time I saw my doctor, he questioned me for 45 minutes trying to understand what I did. And the thing is, you can't understand miracles. They
Yeah.
f- they fall beyond logic, and miracles are our natural state. Miracles are always trying to be delivered to us, but the mind's always in the way, saying, "Oh, I know better. I know exactly what you need to do." It's like,
Mhm.
no, the mind is interfering. The
Yeah.
more you can relax,
Yeah.
the more the body can self-heal, bring
Mhm.
back into balance, harmony, or maybe you'll get those insights that I need to go do this, I need to go do that. And it could be a medicine, it could be a doctor. There are no rules. And sometimes I run into people that are strictly holistic, that won't take medicine, that won't see a doctor, but they're getting strong insights that you need this medicine for a short time to bring the body into balance. You need to see this doctor.
Mhm.
There's always signs that the outside worlders are tools or aids or helpers. So it's not to be ignored. Sometimes we get into this belief system with a holistic practice, and it's like, no, I know you want that, but you have tools and aids out here, and your spirit is saying, go see this person,
Yeah.
go take this. And it
Mhm.
may make no sense to you, and it may go against your belief system, but spirit, you knows exactly what this body needs for you live in it. So we
Mhm.
have to let go of all these beliefs. Because
Mhm.
there's people that that I talk to, and they're doing this water fast, they're doing this, they're doing that, and it's like, well, where did that come from? Did that come from this deeper place, or was it from something you read? And it's usually
Mhm.
something they read or they watched a video. It didn't
Mhm.
come from them. And like, well, I'm not getting any benefits from this
Mhm.
because it didn't come from you. It's not your path.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And for me, it's a quiet voice. Um, an example is I really don't like snakes. And all my life, throughout different visions and dreams, I got tortured by them, bitten by them. And for the past month or two, I've been looking at Greek goddesses, or monsters, they call them, which they're not. One of them is Medusa.
Hmm.
So I ended up, started to paint Medusa, but it's taking me longer than normal because of all the snakes in the head. I don't know if that's her way of communicating to me. I don't know her full story, but it's fascinating how spirit communicate.
Right. And this snake spirit animal is the symbol of healing.
Mm,
So it's also an indication that you're missing something, you're not paying attention to something. Once again, it's the signs and symbols that we just have to dive deeper into what that is for us. And it might be specifically related to you. And maybe it's a representation of some kind of fear that you're holding on to. So
mhm,
they're showing the snakes, which is there for healing, but maybe they're saying that what's coming to me, maybe there's an indication that there's a phobia, something within you, some kind of fear that needs to be cleared out that may be causing issues.
mm. I know for sure it's snakes.
but but that might be that could be another sign too that you weren't paying attention to a healing sign that is around you, because snakes are really symbolic of healing. So there's something that needs to be healed that isn't healed. So they keep giving you these dreams to snap you out of it, if you will. We're going to keep terrifying you till you find out the reason why we keep coming to you.
Well, I've snapped out of it many times, but I don't know what I need to heal. I feel it. I'm working on it, but I don't know, right? Because I don't know. I just don't know. Okay,
Like,
yeah, go ahead.
you don't know, but your spirit knows.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah. I don't know where the spirit is because there's my ego, my flesh, and in between,
Th-
I don't know.
There's no place where spirit is not. Spirit is always around us. There's only a drop within the body that's animating the body, but majority of you is still connected to source, the universe, all that is. And there's just a ray of the sun, if you will, that's illuminating this body.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Talk to us more about dreams and interpretations, and we'll talk about past lives after that.
Yeah, so I'm not really the dream person. The
Oh,
I
okay.
have a friend that he's really good with dreams, and he blows me away with his knowledge. That's always the subconscious trying to get our attention. Our spirit is trying to get our attention. That
Hmm.
dreams have a purpose behind them. They're not just random occurrences. There's a reason why you're having them. So we just need to see whether just processing the day or there's a deeper message. With the snakes, there's probably a deeper message that we need to
Hmm.
look into, and that we truly know what the answer is, and we might need some help with dream interpretation that can navigate through those pathways. Oh, you're seeing this symbol, you're seeing this symbol, and they can tell you what that signifies. Because when I was talking to him, he's like, well, if you're seeing a school locker, it means this. If you're seeing books, it means this. That he has like the spiritual library well. He'll figure out what symbols are showing up in your dreams and what they're trying to tell you, and the language of dreams that he calls it. You see lots of images, and each one has a different one and how they interrelate with each other.
Wow, that's so cool. So I've had what I call dreams or visions. I don't know what to call them because I thought I was asleep. I've had loved ones come to me while I sleep. I wake up, I remember what it is. Would you call that a dream or a visitation? I don't know what to call it when I'm not conscious.
I would call it whatever resonates with you. It's actually a dream visitation. They're actually coming to you through the path of least resistance. You might say you're too busy during the day, you're too wrapped up in your mind, we can't get across. Now you're asleep, you're relaxed, we can there's
Mhm.
no there's no barrier, so we can come in and share this message. But through day-to-day life, we're just too busy because it is a quiet voice. But they're
Oh,
always trying to give us signs and symbols around us, but sometimes we're just too busy to notice. Like I mentioned earlier, sometimes we're having this experience, we think, well, that was fun, and we continue out through our day.
mhm.
And if I did it with the ghost hunt, I would have never healed
Mm.
unless they gave me the message another way. But I had to have that quantum shift to say, hey, wait a second, there's something here I can't see with my eyes.
Yeah, 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 I agree. Yeah, it was weird because it's a different way of touching. If someone's flesh to flesh, you touch them, you feel it. But I
Right.
felt touched, and my dad gave me a hug. It felt real, but I don't know. It's just spirit and flesh touching.
Yeah.
Maybe I've experienced that, but yeah, it was strange.
Yeah, because the mind can't tell the difference between, reality and imagination. The mind cannot tell the difference. You get to
Oh,
realize the mind is locked in this box. It doesn't physically see light, doesn't see what's around us. It's
mhm,
depending on the eyes or fingers to get these
mhm.
electrical signals that it puts into an image.
Yeah, yeah,
So it's
that's
just
cool.
all imagination.
Yeah, yeah. So Sam, what are some of the guides that you've worked with or currently working with? Well, they're working with you as well.
Oh, I can't go into them all. There's just too many. There's literally hundreds of people around me when I get into this space. But
Yeah.
I work with my primary doctor is who's Galen from the first century Rome. He
Ooh.
comes around quite a bit. And
Mhm,
Paracelsus from the 15th or 16th century comes around quite a bit. He's the
mhm.
one that discovered the mind-body connection. So if we're stressed, how that impacts the body. So
Hmm.
he's around quite a bit. And then there's Melchizedek, who's around a lot with wisdom and whoever. And all these doctors show up, but usually they don't give me their names, except for this one who purposely went in his voice say, "I'm doctor."
Yeah.
And
Oh, wow. Wow. That's fascinating. And I know a lot of historical figures as well, or people's guides.
yeah,
What are a few of the really, really cool historical figure guides you've heard of?
yeah. So it really depends. We have to realize that spirit always exists. The person who was famous is still spirit. He could be in another body, could be here today. It could have been you. Some people time they have this deja vu experience, like, I wrote this book. This looks too familiar. So I read a book that was hit me like that. I wrote this.
Mhm, mhm.
It was just the weird signs and symbols that come that, it was who wrote that book? Brian Weiss, One Spirit, Many Masters. I forget the actual title.
Many
The
lives, many
Many
masters. I've
Masters. Yeah,
listened to it. I
yeah, Many
audio
Lives, Many.
listened to it. Yeah, yeah. It's mind-blowing and fascinating. If anyone hasn't read or listened to it through audio, you should.
Yeah, because
Because yeah.
we're having all these experiences, and if we have deja vu, it's probably another version of us, another aspect of us, because it's all we're
Hmm.
just constantly having a spiritual experience in all these various forms.
Yeah.
And it's nothing really to fear. It's just like, okay, this is my current experience. Let's make the most of this. Let's
Hmm.
not get stuck in the drama, the worry, the anxiety. Let's enjoy this to the best of our ability. And that's what you'll hear from a lot of teachers,
Hmm.
is we're here to enjoy life. If you're not enjoying life, what is the story? Why are you taking that story as truth? And
Hmm.
start to go deeper into that to realize it's just a story. It's not you.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I've had many, many past life visions. Have you had some, and how have they impacted you?
Yeah, they've had some. It's interesting, but it's like it's my current experience now, but it's not really a past experience
Mm.
because all happening here now, just all these various timelines. There's no past, there's no future. It's always here in this moment. So if we're going to a past life, it's actually occurring on some timeline here. So it's just a matter of that's why you get this bleed through once in a while where you'll get these visions, these insights. So it's really interesting when you dive into that to say there's really no past life. It's just a previous timeline that I'm now on this timeline. I was on that timeline where my awareness was. And it really gets mind-boggling to the mind. Like, how can this be? I have pictures of when I was a child, but yet here today.
Mhm.
Well, that child probably still exists someplace on some timeline in
Yeah.
some form of reality and so you can go back to that through memories and tie into that experience
Hmm.
and that's how we keep our traumas alive by tapping into those past timelines. I think is what's coming to me is that we're tapping into that. We have to realize that we're having all these experiences and you may have some really interesting experiences where you're not in a human body, where you're in an alien body
Hmm.
because you're spirit. You're in multiple places at one time. This is your only experience. You're many places at one time. You may even run into yourself on Earth in another version of yourself. But you
Hmm.
just have this weird like deja vu, like something seems familiar, but
Hmm.
it's okay. There's nothing to fear.
Yeah. You know what? I have those 24/7. Like I have. It's like I'm here, but I'm not here. But I'm
Right.
technically not here because at times it's, with all the trauma, when we experience severe trauma, part of us leaves us, fragmented souls. That's what I was told.
Yeah, I don't believe in fragmented souls.
Mm.
We are soul itself. Spirit can never be destroyed or damaged. It's always pure spirit. And once again, I think it's one of these stories that we get into that I'm fragmented, I need to be put back together. It's like, no, it's just another story that
Mhm.
you are whole and complete just as you are.
Mhm.
And it's just a memory that may be tying you back or tethering you back to another timeline. And we just have to learn to really come into this moment. And that's why, in 2 weeks, I have a workshop in my Vibrant Soul Society where we're going to talk about healing and removing the scars of trauma. And that's really about, well, I'm
Mhm.
not really sure what's going to happen because it's all channeled. I don't plan these out. But what I'm sensing is that's when we're really dealing with timelines and we're
Mhm.
keeping the trauma alive by diving back into earlier timelines. We reinvented ourselves in this timeline. So we
Mhm.
could have chosen to stay on the traumatic timeline or could be on this recovered timeline. So I think we'll be doing some timeline shifting in the trauma workshop. That's what's coming to me.
Oh,
But
wow.
I don't plan these out. I get my mind out of the way and allow spirit to come through. I'm not sure who's going to come through, but somebody will come through and teach.
Yeah, yeah, that's awesome. So, what is your process of channeling?
Basically, I just dropped into a deep meditative state or an altered state of consciousness where I'm just trying to get the mind out of the way. So
Mm.
when I'm working with someone, I'm doing it at a soul or consciousness level. I'm working at, I want to go beyond to where you really are and sitting in spirit, and going into the body and say, okay, this is what we need to do. This is where it needs attention. But we
Mhm.
do it from the soul level, the spiritual level, as opposed to the physical level. We want to do more of a inside out type of healing. To me,
Mhm.
that's the most effective. Usually, the medical system is always focused on outside. They're not talking about your inner environment. Are you stressed? Are you overwhelmed with life? What's going on in your inner world? They're just working on the external body, but all healing, in my case, is internal. We get the
Mhm.
mind out of the way.
Mhm.
We ignite our vibrant soul and allow the vibrant soul to bring the body back into balance through various insights
Mhm.
and nudges and hints. And I'll work with people. And we'll bring in the spiritual doctors together and
Yeah,
allow them to help
yeah.
because they're still here. Your doctors are still here. They're still trained in the body. They know
Mhm.
how to correct it.
Mhm.
If we're willing to surrender the mind that has everything figured out.
Mhm.
But I tell individuals there's nothing to figure out. You have the answer within you. If you can be quiet enough to hear the answer and
Mhm.
trust the answer. The biggest thing is people don't trust themselves. They know they have to do
Mhm.
something, but they simply don't trust themselves
Mhm.
because we've been taught in society not to trust yourself, that we don't know what is best for us. But we
Mhm.
forget that we live in this body. We are the masters of this body. Others are just guessing what you need.
Yeah, yeah,
We
yeah,
could let
that's
go of the
true. Yeah.
we could let go of the guessing and say, okay, this is what I need. What you're saying resonates a little bit with me, but I need to go sit with that some more. And
Mhm.
maybe you can help me on this in some aspect.
Mhm.
Because there's your tools, your aids, and your helpers out there.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Yeah, yeah. All the answers, I'm finding them within myself.
Right.
Growing up, as adult in a busy world, I always thought someone had the answers and they're gonna hand it to me if I find them.
No, it doesn't work that way. That's why I was seeing the doctors, for 38 years, and they never healed me because I gave my all my power to the external authorities instead
Mhm.
of stepping into my own authority.
Mhm.
So I've been really so what I do, and so maybe sometime we can do this, is that I offer these free soul calls where I just give you a taste of what I do, where I'm connecting with people on this deeper level, and we bring in the doctors or whoever, and I've witnessed many miracles in 5-10 minutes because it's
Mhm.
spirit. But then I give the recording and remind you to keep listening because the mind is very funny. If I take somebody from an 8, 9, 10 level pain and get it down to a 1, 2, or 3, or maybe make it disappear,
Mhm.
within a day or two, it's back. The mind says, I'm missing something, and it'll drag it back.
Mhm.
So I say, keep listening to this recording, keep working down the mind, keep getting rid of those belief systems that want to bring back that pain because the mind hates change. If I take someone from a 10 to a 0, the mind will say, whoa, 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 something is wrong here,
Mhm.
something is not right. And it will drag it back, maybe not as strong, and it will get weaker and weaker and weaker as you do this process because there's no time and space. People have my recordings from 7, 8 years ago. that say, I'm having this issue again. They go back to the recording. The doctors come through. The same energy comes through because there's no
Mm,
time space and the recording is still there. And they're like, how do you encode your energy in this? It's like, no, it's just the intention that we're putting behind it. That when we get into this space, we're going into this energy
mm,
because it's all here now. It's not the past when we think it's the past. So
mm,
even recorded 7 years ago, it's still here now on some timeline that we can go get to.
mm. Yeah, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Oh, what an incredible episode this has been. Time is not on my side today.
Yeah, it's always that case. It's been
Yeah.
fascinating. I never know where these conversations are going to go.
Yeah. So to wrap up, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you'd like to share?
Now just remind yourself that you are the vibrant soul, that you are the answer that you seek. And that's why the Vibrant Soul Society, it's about doing these programs to help you remember who you are. That I do
Mhm,
psychic readings in there. I have a whole library in there, and I do live events frequently in there,
mhm,
just
mhm,
to come back into yourself. Because I say there's 1,001 ways to come back to you. Even the recorded, 100 meditations, maybe that wasn't the right one for you to come back into you because
mhm,
it wasn't specifically designed for you. So when working with individuals, they're getting a recording designed for them,
mhm,
specific to them. So I
mhm,
offer these free soul calls. They're out there. And then I make the Vibrant Soul Society. I give a free trial. Then after that, it's just
mhm,
$11 a month. I'm just here to help people
mhm,
remember who they are without
mhm,
making things complicated and difficult. Because there's
mhm,
so many spiritual programs out there that have you jumping through hoops with all these routines and rituals. Like, that's not needed. I'm living proof that's not needed. I
mhm,
don't have all these incurable diseases anymore because I didn't follow all these steps. I
mhm,
just found me.
mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I appreciate you making it affordable because I find that some stuff are just too expensive. Yes, charge for your gifts, but also help other people who can't afford the gifts and the things you're offering. That's what I
Right,
find, with most spiritual teachers.
right, because I'm here to help millions, not just a select few.
Yeah, 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 I agree. So how can people connect with you if they'd like to work with you?
Well, I showed you my links, but the big thing is if you just search for Vibrant Soul Society, you will find my links by searching on that, or the head trash. I talk about head trash a lot. That's all this mental noise that
Mhm,
prevents us from knowing who we really are. So it's really this the search for Vibrant Soul Society. You will see me out there on YouTube,
mhm,
Facebook, TikTok. Just started my TikTok. I'm everywhere. I'm just trying to get the message out that you are the cure that you seek. You
mhm,
are the cure itself, that
mhm.
power within you. It's not outside of you.
Yeah, yeah, I love
So,
that. Yeah,
and
yeah.
miracles are a natural state of being. If you're not getting your medical miracle, your financial miracle, whatever it may be, it's because the mind is blocking that. Your soul knows exactly what you need and it's trying to deliver. And your mind is saying, no, thank you. I'm not deserving. I'm not good enough, whatever it may be. And it's blocking the path. So we clear all that and just be ourselves and allow everything to come to us.
Mm, yeah, yeah, I love that. Thank you for sharing. I have one last question for you as we wrap up. What
Sure.
is the meaning of life for you?
Meaning of life is to enjoy life.
Mm, yeah.
We chose this human experience to have the human experience, to enjoy the human experience to the best of our ability.
Mhm,
Yes, life gets very difficult and challenging. When I lived in 38 years of pain, it was really hard to enjoy life. But when you start enjoying life, you start feeling good, you start to align with who you really are. That spirit is a place of joy, of happiness, of contentment. So when you're joyful and happy, you're starting to line up to your soul. And the more you align to your soul, there's more synchronicities that happen. There's more magic that happens just by feeling good. It's not all these practices. If we can just feel good in this moment, life will improve.
yeah, yeah, I love that. Well, Sam, thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for coming on the podcast. Keep up the amazing work that you're doing.
All right. Thank you, Bernadette. Really a pleasure talking with you today.
You're welcome.